Three. Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared podcast. This time it's me and Aaliyah, and we are here today to talk to Mr. Mark Sugar of the band Black Sites and a couple other bands too. We're going to be talking to him all about the band, his history, his future, and all fun stuff like that. So to begin, I'm going to bring it over to Aaliyah, who's going to ask the first question.
Hello. Well, Mark, thanks for joining us for a podcast episode here. Could you, for the people who don't know who you are, maybe can you give us a little summary of who you are, what you do, in a nutshell version?
I would imagine very few people listening have any clue who I am. So my name is Mark Sugar. I play guitar and sing in a band called Black Sites. We have our third record coming out in a couple weeks. It's called Untrue. And I guess the nutshell version is I've been doing this for a little while. This is our third record. I play in another band called Bear Mace, also from Chicago. And yeah, that's more or less it. I've been putting out records mostly in DIY fashion for the last 10 or 11 years.
Nice.
Cool. So now I'm going to ask you, so how did you actually get into metal itself, Mark?
Oh, wow. So when I was much younger, this was a very, very long time ago. I was probably about 10. I had a cousin give me some cassette tapes for my birthday, I believe. And one of them was, I'm not shitting you here, Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue, which is
I love that album.
It's a great album, even now. Not the most brutal entryway into things, but I checked that out, went and bought Shout at the Devil, got into Van Halen from there, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, that sort of thing at the time, and kind of worked my way to where I'm at now.
So what about the intermediate step there? You kind of left out a little bit of a...
Yeah, like when did you get into like heavier, what was the first like brutal or heavier band that you discovered?
So I got really deep into thrash metal at first. Like I discovered, everyone in high school, whatever year it is, everyone's into Metallica and Megadeth and bands like that. Yeah. And through them, I discovered, if you read the thanks list in the back of the CD, which nobody does anymore, but, I found Anthrax and Overkill and Voivod, bands like that. Oh. And started diving deeper into that. I got into doom metal after that. I got in, I had some friends play me, I remember one day just sitting with my friend smoking pot in his apartment. He's like, man, you got to hear this shit. And it was Pull the Plug by Death. Mm. So that was my intro to death metal. And of course now I'm in a band that sounds remarkably like that record, but that was my introduction to that. And I try to just keep an open mind and listen to pretty much anything now. Like back then I was also listening to underground radio at the time, found a lot of cool bands back then from Chicago too. There's a band called Cyclone Temple who I loved. Trouble, whose singer Eric Wagner just passed actually. Bands like that from here were a huge influence on me, and knowing that they were from here was actually a pretty strong motivator, because at the time I didn't, you don't think of like metal bands from here, or back then you didn't. Mm-hmm. Smashing Pumpkins at the time, or maybe like Disturbed a little bit later, but there weren't like, thrash bands here, or any extreme metal bands, or not that anyone had heard of. So for me, that was pretty huge.
So that kind of leads into the question we had here. So it's about Bear Mace. So Bear Mace, obviously death metal. Like for anybody who's not listening, it's a death metal project, quite different from Black Sites, which is more, I don't know, trad metal, prog metal type mixture type thing. Kind of hard to describe, but
that's fair.
It's the best way probably to describe it. So you're in a band called Bear Mace. So you guys play death metal. So how do you kind of work it out that you're in like a death metal band and then you're also in like a prog trad band? Like it's pretty different.
I mean, to me, it makes sense. I like everything. I listen to all kinds of shit. Prior to these two bands, our guitar player Ryan from Black Sites and myself, we had a band called Trials, who were sort of a thrash thing, sort of a proggy thing, but we were blending a lot of stuff into that band. Like we had black metal influences, we had, death metal stuff, we had kind of technical stuff, groove stuff. It was all over the place. And I think what made more sense for me was to kind of split it in half and have one band that can be really progressive, really cerebral, really in-depth. And then I have this other band that can just be really just brutal in the most meathead, straightforward kind of way. Yeah. And they challenge different parts of my brain, but they're both a lot of fun to be in.
Fair.
And the fact that I'm not the singer in Bear Mace actually takes a lot of stress off me. I don't really enjoy singing like that anymore. It's physically kind of rough for me. So having someone who's much better at it than me is awesome. And I get to concentrate more on playing guitar. So Bear Mace is just a different type of entertainment for me, a different way I amuse myself, I guess.
Fair. I had a quick follow-up on that, Aaliyah, if I may. Are you okay with it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so the name. When you first told me the name of Bear Mace, I wasn't sure if you were joking with me or not. So is it how did the name come about? I remember you messaged me and you're like, I got this project called Bear Mace, and I thought you were fucking bears, and it's death metal. So so can you kind of explain the name? I love it, but at first I thought you were messing with me.
So we had initially, backstory on Bear Mace is we started the project with my friend Chris, who's our singer. He and I started the band probably 9 or 10 years ago now, and it was just the two of us doing demos for a while. And we initially had another name that we had to scrap because we found out some other band had it. And we were not happy about that. Chris was pissed off about that for a few weeks. And one night I popped on Facebook and he was having some conversation with someone else about something that they didn't like. And Chris said something like, "Oh, we ought to spray that dude with Bear Mace." I was like, that's the band name. I just commented. The anniversary actually just showed up on Facebook a few weeks ago of that conversation. But I have this knack for picking band names out of casual conversations. And I was just like, you should name the band Bear Mace. And we did. And the bear theme kind of came later with the bear on the first album cover and all that. That just kind of became a running theme. And it's not the most serious of names, but we were not entirely fucking with you either.
Yeah, I was very confused at first. I was like, what does he talk? What does he mean? And then you said it to me. I was like, whoa, this is actually pretty good. I actually like.
Well, thank you. I think.
Then I understood it. Then I got what you meant. But I mean, it's one of those things. You're like, is he serious? Is he not serious?
It's not a thing. It's not a thing that you spray bears with. It's a mace that a bear hits you with.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Yeah,
really, that's what we tell people.
So, I don't think I have any more follow-up questions on Bear Mace, so I'm gonna let Aaliyah do her question next.
Okay, that's a very metal description of the band name, Bear Mace. Well, my follow-up question, we've kind of already covered a little bit on the style of Black Sites, like the genre, but maybe we could talk a little more about how that project came about and maybe the meaning behind that band name and stuff.
Wow. So I'll start with the name first because I'll forget. Okay. So the term Black Site, some people listening might be familiar. It's basically a secret detention facility that the police or the military might use. A lot of people first became aware of that term during the beginning of the war in Afghanistan, but Chicago happens to have their own because that's the type of police we have. So it's interesting because we're not a political band at all, or at least I don't think so. But my thought with the name is that as long as that's the name, we're always representing injustice and oppression in some way. It's always there, whether the songs are explicitly about that or not. And that kind of frees us up to write about whatever we want, because that taking that side is always there. It's built right into the band name. Mm-hmm. Sorry, what was the other half of the question? How we started?
The origins of the band, yeah.
So like I was saying, Ryan and I used to play in this other band called Trials, and that was more like modern thrash, I guess, like techie thrash.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really cool band. But after doing 3 records, I just felt myself kind of going somewhere else with the writing. We were trying to write another album, and I found myself sitting on a bunch of songs that I did not think would work for that band and that lineup. I was not sure what to do, and then somebody else quit the band, so I was just like, all right, I'm gonna start another band. Put some people together. I was just gonna do it as a project, and then out of nowhere we heard from Mascot Records, a label based in Holland, and they wanted to hear what I was up to, and I sent them some of the ideas, and they were into it. So overnight we had a sort of a record deal, and found a lineup. I got Ryan from Trials back in the band, and we made a record called In Monochrome, which is from I think 2017. And yeah, I guess all I wanted to do was get back to like writing songs and doing the things in music that I really like, because I felt that playing thrash was pretty limiting for that. Like, you know, I love like Thin Lizzy guitar solos, or like cool vocal stuff, like King's X, like Doug Pinnick. Like that dude's a huge influence on me. Stuff like that, you know, or just really cool like jazz drumming, like Bill Ward from Black Sabbath. You know, just throwing stuff in there that people don't really do much, and kind of mashing it together and making this kind of like Voltron of all the things I like about other bands, basically.
Yeah, more of a casual amalgamation of everything that you like.
Casual
Doesn't have to fit
amalgamation.
into it.
I like that. Shit, we should call the album that. That's good.
You can have it. That's good.
Thank you. Write that down. But no, I just wanted to do something that was a bit more in line with what my other influences are and what I was listening to at the time, and still am, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more trad, just because I'm old and I listen to old stuff. But I don't know. I think we do a good job of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the album is really good, and I definitely encourage everyone listening to go check it out when it's released. Speaking to the roots of the band and sort of your roots, if you had to describe the Midwest metal scene to an outsider, what do you think you would say about it?
So my running joke answering that question is that there's only one drummer, and it's Barry Naples, who's in our band. He's in Bear Maze too, actually.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I feel like the Midwest scene and the Chicago scene are 2 very different things.
How's that? Elaborate.
Well, I think Chicago has a bit more diversity of bands. I think there's maybe a bit more professionalism that comes with maybe more of an age gap. The interesting thing with Chicago is that there's really no, it seems to all be like bars to play at. So everyone's at least 21. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, you go out in the suburbs, or you go to small towns, or you go slightly out of state, and it's, you know, it's younger people, which is awesome. Some of those bands are, I would say, still very heavily influenced by whoever they're influenced by. You know, that's where you find those bands that sound exactly like Meshuggah or exactly like Pantera. And, you know, with time, dudes grow out of that and hopefully find their own thing. Exactly like we did. The difference is that no one saw us do it because we weren't old enough to play clubs yet. But yeah, I would say the regional flavor in the Midwest is definitely like a Pantera down Meshuggah thing. A lot of down tuning, a lot of camo shorts, that sort of thing. Nothing against it. You know, I loved Pantera growing up too, like everyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the vibe for a lot of the Midwest. Chicago is more, I'd say, more death metal at this point. And I didn't even have any idea about that till I ended up in a death metal band. Bear Mace is the first death metal band I ever joined, but I was amazed at the amount of good death metal bands here and the amount of people coming to the shows. It was actually a really pleasant surprise.
Nice. Yeah, I have to ask that because actually I live in a suburb of Chicago, but I only moved here a couple years ago. I'm not from here originally. So right before the pandemic hit, I moved here. So I'm actually still familiarizing myself with what the local scene is like to an
Oh
extent.
wow, you picked like the absolute shittiest time to come here because nothing's happened yet since
Yeah,
you got here.
well, I moved in with my husband, so it worked out that way. But yeah, so I guess one question I was wondering is like what you mentioned, there's a lot of bars to play at, not so many just at dedicated venues, but do you have a favorite venue in the city or around the city?
We have a few favorites. The places that we generally play, or that I generally play with either band, uh, closest to where I live, there's a venue called Livewire Lounge, and these are dedicated music venues. They also have bars, they also do other stuff, but they have stages and they do have shows. Livewire Lounge is a great place. We play Cobra Lounge pretty often. That's an awesome place. There's a larger venue called Reggie's on the south side of Chicago.
I have been to Reggie's
Reggie's is a
and
good time.
I've been to Livewire actually too. I don't know if I've been to Cobra Lounge, but this was I was in peripheral states, so I did travel to the city a little bit here and there. So
Yeah.
the more common venues I'm a little familiar with.
Cool. Yeah,
So,
Cobra, I
Cobra
think, has done less metal shows than they did in the past, just because I think they have different booking now, and they kind of changed their setup a bit. They have like a beer garden and all that now, but they're getting back into shows. Bear Mace is actually playing there in a couple weeks, I think, and yeah, it's a great place. There's other places we played at too, but those are the first three that come to mind just because they keep having us back.
Yeah. And I also just went to a show on the music joint side of Reggie's like last
cool.
week. So yeah.
That's where I was in High Spirits. My entire tenure in High Spirits was in that room.
Ooh, let's talk about
that.
Nobody knows what we're talking about since we talked about that off the recording. So I'm going to jump in. So Mark is on Metal Archives as being a member of High Spirits. It's been kind of a problem because people have mentioned it in reviews that he's a member of High Spirits or was a member of High Spirits. And I'd like Mark to kind of go over how he was in High Spirits and
or not
was in High Spirits and how long he was involved in High Spirits for.
So the backstory on that is Chris Black, who's the front man of High Spirits and Dawnbringer and various other awesome bands. I was in his band for a while. He was doing festivals in Europe and he did some shows here. And I was the guitar player for that run. And I played on one of his records. So he and I have known each other for years. He's my neighbor and he's aware that I sing. So one day I'm at home minding my own business and I get this frantic phone call from him and the other High Spirits guys. Long story short, their drummer couldn't make the gig. So Chris was going to play drums instead of sing, which means they needed other people to sing. And they were kind of dividing up the labor and asked a bunch of people to take part. And they asked if I could learn 2 songs in about 3 hours. And so I hauled ass over to Reggie's, read the lyrics off a sheet of paper, and 7 minutes later it was done. It was an awesome show, considering how quickly people had to pull it together. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, but I was never actually a member of High Spirits. That is not, I would not call that accurate now.
We appreciate Metal Archives and the effort they put in there.
Oh, they're hilarious. They're very, very detailed.
Yeah.
What band were you in with Chris then?
That was just called the Professor Black Band, or just Professor Black.
Okay. No, I get it.
Yeah, I played guitar on a record called I Am the Rock, which is, if you're into Motorhead, you will enjoy that record.
Okay. Controversial opinion, and you guys can fight me if you want. I'm not into Motorhead.
I mean, that's just your opinion.
It
You're
is.
wrong.
I'm totally. Aaliyah, what do you Motorhead? I hope you're.
I would like to plead the fifth on this. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, shit, we're on a metal podcast, and I'm the only Motorhead fan here. Shit.
Well, I want to point out the fifth is not available in Canada, so technically this is being recorded in Canada.
He's right.
I would just say I wasn't exposed to them early on in my metalhead life, or really at all until later on in life. So it was not a hugely influential band to me, and it just doesn't. I enjoy it when the time is right, and it's fun to hear live. I would say it's more fun live for me than to hear a recording.
Fair.
That's fair.
Fair. I do have a question though, Mark, since we're on the subject of Motorhead. I brought this up earlier, and since we're going to get controversial, we might as well get controversial. So I don't think too many people have ever really listened to a Motorhead album outside of Ace of Spades. Would you agree with that sentiment, or would you not agree with that sentiment? In general, I'm not saying you necessarily, I'm saying as a general rule.
As a general rule, I think you're absolutely right. And those people are missing out.
Okay.
I happen to celebrate their entire catalog. Even their later stuff, like in the 90s, was fantastic. 1916 is a great album. Overnight Sensation's a great album. All that stuff. They never did anything that sucked.
Fair.
Like, I would say all of their stuff is good to awesome.
Fair.
And they have albums that are at least as good as Ace of Spades. So people are missing out if they're sleeping on that.
And here's the most controversial question about Motorhead. Is Hellraiser with Lemmy singing or Hellraiser with Ozzy singing the definitive Hellraiser?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I think the definitive one would probably be the Ozzy version. I think that came out first.
Maybe. I don't think so. I could be wrong. I don't know. Now I want to look after we're done.
I think it did. I have to check.
I will check after too.
Because Motorhead did it on a soundtrack. It was like Hellraiser 3 or one of the later Hellraisers.
Yep.
But I think Lemmy wrote it, but I think Ozzy recorded it first.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
You could be right.
But okay, but you say the version is a definitive edition, a version of it.
I would think so.
Cool.
No offense to Lemmy and company, but yes.
All right, fine. Did you have a follow-up to that, Aaliyah?
A follow-up to Motorhead?
A question about a specific Motorhead song.
Can't follow up Motorhead.
All right. Did you have any more questions for Mark? I know I think I've asked all my questions. Did you have any more follow-ups?
I think I have one more fun question. Not funny, fun question.
Sure.
Shall we dispel some myths? What does Chicago-style pizza mean to you, Mark?
Oh, Jesus. No one eats deep dish pizza on a regular basis here. You cannot do that. No one really does that. It's good. I eat that stuff maybe once every 2 years. Thin crust is the real shit. That's the Chicago style pizza.
Right. Pub style.
Thank you. Pub style. There you go.
Squares or triangles?
I can go either way on that. Lately it's been squares, but however it's handed to me, it tastes the same. So I'm not too particular.
Does it though?
It affects the crust ratio.
Yeah.
The ratio of crust to cheese is affected slightly by that. The thing with squares is if you get to those middle pieces, you get pieces with no crust at all, and then you get grease all over your fingers and shit. And that's no fun.
That's perfect. Then you can run away and nobody will catch you because you're greased up.
That's a very practical outlook.
Right.
I never thought of it that way. You have a point. Shit. Okay, squares then. Going with squares.
All right.
You're absolutely right.
I have a final question for myself then, unless Leah's got another funny question.
No.
Okay. What is your all-time favorite bad review that you've gotten? The one that compared you to Paul Stanley? I agree.
You know, I don't even remember who that was because it was more than one person. Like when
Yeah.
that record came out, there was like when Exile came out, there was like 2 or 3 reviews that mentioned the Paul Stanley thing. And I think I was just like sick or something when I recorded the record, or something was wrong with my voice or the mixing or something. I will say this, in my previous band, every review compared us to Machine Head, and I was getting compared to Rob Flynn, which I just take to mean that I'm a shitty singer. And I would rather they would have just said that, but I'll take Paul Stanley over Rob Flynn any day.
Whoa, really?
And I'm not a fan of Kiss at all. I probably like Machine Head more than I like Kiss, but I'm not a fan of that dude's singing. And after being compared to him on every record, I'm prepared to be compared to just about anything else.
I am listening to Trials once we're done, because I don't think I've ever listened to a single Trials album that you've done. So I am now going to listen to it just to see if you do sound like Rob Flynn on that album, on those albums.
I mean, it might. Yeah, let me know what you think. If it sounds like Paul Stanley, definitely let me know.
Okay, so then your final question now is, what's your favorite Kiss album, since we're on the subject of Paul Stanley?
Oh my God. I am not a fan of Kiss at all.
You still got to pick one.
I don't know if I can even pick a record, but I have a song. Can I do that?
Yeah, do a song.
My favorite Kiss song is God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too.
That's a cover.
Exactly. Exactly. But that was in Bill and Ted Bogus Journey. I mean, that whole soundtrack is fucking fantastic. I mean, you can't be upset about that.
You got to pick a one. You can't have a fucking cover. There's no way you can have a cover as your fucking favorite song by a band. That doesn't work. That's
a real statement.
Yeah,
it's a real statement, Curtis.
No, he's not allowed to do this. No.
I got to pick a different Kiss song.
Yeah, different Kiss song, dude.
Shit, God of Thunder. Okay.
Okay, that works.
God of Thunder's my runner-up. Okay.
Cool. What does Aaliyah got for her favorite Kiss song before we end off?
I have no answer.
Let's make one up. Did they do any other covers?
Google Kiss song.
You're just Googling a random Kiss song. It's gonna be like Beth or something stupid like that.
That probably is a lot of people's favorite Kiss song.
It probably is, pathetically enough, but yeah. Anyways, Aaliyah, do we have any more questions for Mark before we end off?
I think we can wrap it up. Mark, do you have anything you want to leave our listeners with? A message?
I would just like to say, if anyone is still listening this far, thank you for hearing us out. And like I said, I'm in this band called Black Sites. We have a record coming out on October 8th. Check it out. You never know, you might like it.
All right.
And with that, we are done. Whoops, I gotta hit this one.